Okay,
I just thought about
so
it. I didn't argue with everybody up here, but I got love for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to y'all.
that's real.
Shout
What
out
they
to y'all, man.
say, if you're friends and you ain't never fell out or had no
Argued?
argument, you ain't
Yeah,
really
they ain't, y'all
friends.
ain't friends. Y'all not really friends. You know what
Okay,
I mean?
so hi. Hello, y'all.
What's good?
My name is J Max, and I am conducting this interview for my multicultural psychology studies course at, I'm going to blank it out because I have to edit where my college is, where we
J-Rex.
are learning about the experiences of American multicultural groups. Do I have your permission to record our conversation and share it with my professor, Jean?
Of course, absolutely. And shout out to your professor and your college as well. Of course, anytime.
Thank you. Okay, so can you share a little bit about your racial and like your ethnic background and cultural heritage?
Sure. So, in a nutshell, my father is half Dominican and Haitian. My mother's Haitian. Born in Brooklyn. I'm 41 years old. Lived in Haiti, DR, well, DR means Dominican Republic, and of course, America. I had the benefit of growing up of learning multiple languages, multiple cultures, multiple religions, different philosophies. Father was an atheist, Marxist atheist, and my mother is a mumbo, which is a voodoo priestess. So that's kind of sums it up in a nutshell
You have a very rich,
between Africanized religions and spiritual systems and the greater broad religious systems of like Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It also allowed me to understand more about Buddhism and Hinduism. And as a child, once again, the influence, we would travel. So I spent summers in France, Canada. Me and my mom would go to Benin a lot for different practices and rituals. Benin's in Africa, and obviously in America as well. So having that experience growing up at the time in Haiti, and of course part time in DR, I got to also see the social impact of things. Example, who was at the top of the social hierarchy. I got to witness classism, colorism, all of these things. Shalom camp. So I was able to witness all of these things. And by the time I got back to the U.S., for half of the eighth grade up until high school, I was way ahead of these other children. It was very easy for me to be able to see certain things because they didn't have that rich cultural experience and traveling and a family that really emphasized education, by the way. So it was very important for all of us to speak multiple languages. Everyone spoke multiple languages. Um, so yes, that does have a huge impact, which obviously later on in life I correlate that to my children. But when you grew up in a third world country and you can see the classism and you have these two dynamic headstrong parents that are often clashing, by the way, because towards the end they got divorced, and then you come to the US and now you're influenced by the FBA, Foundation on Black American Culture, and you're watching different narratives and you can merge those two together. There's only two options: either you reject one completely or you can merge them together. um and I think that's incredibly powerful. So yeah, it does work. It does work. And I got lucky because there's others that did not grow up that way. They grew up in an environment that was very stagnant. All they saw was their neighborhood, certain things happening in the neighborhood. Maybe mom and dad wasn't there, all types of stuff going on. So that absolutely impacts a child's life. The first 7 years of a child is paramount. So having a rich cultural understanding and upbringing 100% impacted me. Just as if I didn't have that, it would also 100% impact me on a different direction. So absolutely, that does work, and it does impact you. I'm not sure if I answered the question or not, but
oh, you absolutely did because I mean, on multiple different levels, I could see how you were explaining how your cultural background is influencing your sense of identity and kind of it shapes who you are. Um, I think that it's interesting to note too that you kind of had like a full experience between growing up knowing your roots in Haiti and also like having strong roots in the US and New York and also in Miami, because those are two like cultural hotspots in the United
And
States in
Dominican
general.
Republic, and
Oh
Dominican
yeah,
Republic
and the
as
Dominican
well.
Republic, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so like there's so much richness going on there with your experience in general on all these different levels of understanding and perceiving different cultures and how they operate and just how things are, in general in different, parts of the world. So not to mention that you've seen many other places too. So I think we'll get to that
Hey, Bubble.
down the line a little bit.
Absolutely.
But okay, so let's this is the next question that I have. Have you ever felt like you had to code switch or adjust your behavior depending on the social or professional setting?
Absolutely. So growing up, it was like being a chameleon, and to a certain extent, I still am. So, example, once again, that upbringing allows me to kind of hide or blend in or completely be unnoticed. So the only thing I would give away certain things to certain people was my accent, for example. So because I grew up back and forth and learning these languages at a young age, I develop a certain accent. So example, when I'm speaking Creole, I speak perfect Creole, right? But you could tell if you're Haitian that, oh, okay, this person probably either grew up abroad. When I speak Spanish, same thing. You could kind of tell, okay, well, he speaks Spanish, but there's an accent. Where's he from? And obviously, when I speak English, it's the same thing, right? So to code switch is a beautiful thing. Meaning, when I'm dealing with examples, so the place we lived in Brooklyn is called Kensington, right? Which is primarily Jewish, Orthodox Jewish, Russian Orthodox, a lot of people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, and very few blacks, like very few, like literally count them on your hands. And out of the blacks that were there, they were mostly Haitian, and I think we had one Jamaican family. So when I went to Ditmas Junior High School, for example, my first girlfriend in America, she was well, her father's Russian Orthodox, right? So that taught me, okay, I could blend in with that. And then I had some friends that lived on the other side, like Wingate Park, for example. They were, Black American, but from, the projects over there, like Red Hook and those places. So I adopted to that as well. And then, of course, when I went to my own culture, as a Haitian culture, I would adopt it a certain way. And when I'm around, people like in Fort Greene that are Dominican and Puerto Rican, example, let's say I go to Washington Heights, so Dominicano, it's like, okay, I could code switch to that. What happened was it allowed me to um A, code switch, B, be able to adapt to every single situation, and C, it also allowed me to learn and take from every single culture. We're nothing but an algorithm of everything that happens to us in life. So the more access you have, the more you know of diverse things, the better you can code switch. Code switching works. I code switched a lot when I was in the corporate world, right? I had a company, and 14 years real estate. I was a broker. Yeah, I would code switch because the way I acted in the boardroom, the way I acted when we had to go do brokers opens, for example, is clearly not the same way I acted when I was at VP Victoria Park playing basketball with a bunch of my friends who are involved in, let's say, other things. Let's put it that way, right? But they also recognized that I could move between all these different worlds. So later on in life, it actually was a great tool because everyone could come to you about certain things. Even on this app, for example, I could be on the Hispanic side, the French side, the Haitian side, or the quote unquote American side. And my behavior on each different sides is similar, but it's quite different because there's a cultural way to act. Like if I go on the French side, it's quite different than if I was to go on the Latino side. And even within the Latino side, there's different cultures. Dominican Cubans are quite different than Puerto Ricans and Venezuelans, Argentinians. So you learn all of these things and you're able to adapt. And I think to be a complete human being, you must literally, and I'm not trying to quote Bruce Lee here, but be like water, meaning you're able to adapt to every single scenario, every single situation. All human beings are quite frankly the same. It's just what sets us apart is culture, languages, food, and religion. Well, it's your duty to learn all these different things and to be able to adapt to all of these things. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much what it is.
I love that. Thoroughly enjoyed that Bruce Lee quote. Um, okay, so were you or your family born in
Hmm.
another country? If so, which we've already covered that, right? So,
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
born in Brooklyn. Hmm.
exactly. So, if so, what was the migration journey like for your relatives or you?
Oh, that's a good question. Give me a second. Let me mute the man on the comment. I'm just kidding. Um, the migration pattern for our family is quite interesting. So, and I know a lot of people are gonna go on, this app. I get it, but let me just say it. So, if you look at my last name, it's Berthelot, right? Well, the name Berthelot comes from a French chemist. So, if you were to go down, I'll say, let me see, grandmother, about 8 generations on my father's side, you're going to find it's actually the Berthelot Feliz. The Feliz is more the Latino Dominican side, but then the Berthelot is also the French side. So we have a couple family members in Louisiana. They're Berthelots, but they don't look like me. They look very, very white, right? And then you have other family members that are like super dark, right? So once again, it's not just the culture, but a genetics mixture as well that allows, like I'm I guess a lighter skinned guy, right? With reddish orangey beard type of thing going on. With some, salt and pepper thing happening too. So what that does is it allows you. It's almost like your genetics are mixed, your family background's mixed. So the migration pattern for my family is such. On my mother's side, they're Yoruba, right, from the continent, right, and straight into Haiti, right. They're like 90, I don't know, 5% Afro. And then on my father's side, my grandmother's Arawak, but then my grandfather from my mother's side, I mean, my dad's side is of, once again, the Berthelot Feliz family. So they're of the French and, of course, the Dominican. But throughout the line, the lineage, they were mixed in to quote unquote Afro and Black and Latino, right? So that was part of my dad's lineage. Now, in terms of the migratory pattern to America, um, there's multiple ways that Haitians come to America. Haitians and Dominicans, if you put islands, right? You got those that come on the boats, which are generally of the lower classes, and then you got those that come, on the plains. So, and you can kind of tell who's who based on what's the first part that they land in. So, the Haitians that land in South Florida, generally speaking, come from the boats, right? They got here on a boat, and they typically are the lower quote unquote classes. There's no such thing, by the way. All human beings are the same class, but you just in terms of society. Um, my family on both my mom and my dad's side landed in Boston and in New York, right? And those that had even more money landed in Montreal, right? Montreal, so Montreal, in a place called Laval. So they migrated downwards to Florida based on obviously the weather, old age or opportunities to purchase a home and stuff like that. So they, the reason why my family left Haiti, right, is because of the situation. For example, now mind you, like I said, dad's had Dominican Haitian, but eventually everybody stayed in Haiti, and then from there they migrated. So what happened was, there's a gentleman named Jean Claude Duvalier, right? Jean Claude Duvalier's father was named Francois Duvalier. This is a dictatorship that happened in Haiti. My family, along with my grandparents' cousins and other family members, were called the Izmiri brothers. So they were part more of the lighter skin class, and they had an issue with Duvalier. Now, half of them were technically trying to keep up the system of, monopolizing Haiti and keeping everybody poor so that the lighter skinned people could be up. And then the other half, like my grandfather, example, Jean Pascal, he basically was pro Duvalier. But then as Duvalier started dealing with more of the CIA and the American International Monetary Fund and all this other stuff and became a dictatorship, him along with the Izmiri, these are my great uncles, um, brothers, Saint Berthelot, whatever, they basically decided to rebel against Duvalier. Well, lo and behold, my grandfather was killed. Um, other family members were jailed. Um, it then became almost like a lighter skin versus dark skin thing going on, right? So those are my family that were extremely pro Duvalier, despite our grandfather being murdered, um, stayed in Haiti. And the others, they were given a certain amount of time to pack up your stuff, close down your businesses, and go. And they decided to go. So that's how you had a lot of them pack up their stuff. Whatever bank account they had was shut down in Haiti, but whatever they had in America, they came over here. They stayed together. And it's on both sides of my family, dad and mom, by the way. Keep in mind, my mom and my dad have known each other since they were children. And that's another story as well. Um, and my mom, and my dad were actually um, basically they didn't love each other in the beginning, but it was an arranged marriage between families in Haiti. That's how my mom and my dad got together. So then, of course, um, after was it like 21 years or 19 years, I'm not sure. Then at that point, I guess they loved each other, right? They loved each other. But what happened was the faction more on my father's side was more on the lighter skinned elite faction. The faction on my mother's side overall were more on the pro black faction, which eventually was one of the main reasons why my father and my mother separated, by the way. Um, because of that fascism and colorism situation. They were both from good families, but there was a color situation going on, and eventually it was just a lot going on. I mean, it just that was a whole lot of that contributed to them divorcing. Let's put it that way. But overall, um, as the family, like when my family came over here, they all came here under political asylum. But then some of them were technically on the quote unquote watch list because they still had business in Haiti going back and forth. And at the time, the US government supported the Duvalier regime, right? So, like my Uncle Poopy, who I'm not really fond of, he studied at the School of the Americas. We all went to the same school, by the way, Union School. Union School is a diplomatic school in Haiti, which is probably one of the best schools in the Caribbean, right? So when you're from a certain class, you go to that school, and then from there, a lot of them either go to Harvard, Yale, School of the Americas, of course, University of Miami, so Rutgers or CUNY, right, in New York. So that split happened. So you had some on both sides, mom and dad, that either stayed in New York, went to Boston, or Massachusetts. But they all came here um, by means of them having their own money. So when they came here, they stayed together for a little bit, but they had enough money to be able to open up their own businesses. And from there, they all got together. And then, everyone was able to purchase a home from there. And then some of us went back and opened a business in Haiti and get back with the movement and the politics of things. A couple others died. So that's how it happened. So what people need to understand is a lot of times when people leave their homeland and they come to the U.S., right, for example, or any of the quote unquote first world countries, not every single person who comes here is poor. Not everyone who comes here comes from a really destitute background. For example, everyone in my family, typically the older ones, especially the ones that were born in Haiti, their dream is to go back. And they still have ties to Haiti. They still send money back and they still have a business back there and they travel back and forth. Because growing up, it was very clear to me, right, that no matter where you're born, yes, I'm born in America, I mean, in Brooklyn, but I'm not an American per se. I'm a product of certain things, and I'm an American citizen, but my culture is that of Hispaniola, which is Haiti and Dominican Republic. You see what I'm saying? So even though our families migrated over here for a certain extent, right, what happened was this: we still knew, okay, well, we're here. Yes, me and people of me and those of my generation were born here. But make no mistake, our bodies were born here, but our soul will always be Hispaniola, will always be Haiti or DR. And our culture will never be what you think is American. Yes, we do all the stuff that Americans do, but we understand that if we ever migrate our culture, not just our bodies, um, then at that point we lose who we are. And it was very clear to us to see others who lost who they are or their cultures were still stolen or taken away from them. We didn't want to have that situation. So most people from certain families, they keep their lineage and they keep their culture. That's why it's important that everybody speaks Creole. Everyone speaks a certain thing. Everyone knows what's going on in the country. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is.
Respect. I like that a whole lot.
Am I? Are we allowed to answer comments in the comments or no?
Um, yeah, if you want to go ahead and answer like one or two, like while we're going through the
Yeah,
questions
Okay,
but
again.
see, you
so
want to stay focused. You want to stay focused,
no,
Yeah,
it's cool.
try
It's cool.
to.
man.
Now, real quick, Sil said, did you keep your culture up to date? Absolutely, for sure. That's just this is it's not even an effort for us. It's part of our bloodline. I like that your family stuck together and built together. They still got stable. Absolutely. One of the things, and I'm glad I answered that question. So one of the things that people don't understand is when you keep your culture and you come to America, your first generation will most likely suffer, but the second generation does better, and the third generation absolutely does better. Because we, so on my mom's side, for example, it was like 27 or 28, right? Listen to this, in a three bedroom apartment in New York. Okay, now think about it. That's a lot of people. Some had to sleep on bunk beds, some had to sleep on the floors. Of course, the living room was a big old bedroom, but within 10 to 15 years, all of the adults owned their own home. Period. Up until me, nobody went to prison in my family. And we've been here since what, the 70s? So, you see what I'm saying? On my dad's side, things took a little bit longer, but they got way more money than my mom's side. But understand, they all lived together. On my dad's side, for example, some lived in the attic, some lived in the basement. Um, you know, they had a makeshift thing they did in the kitchen. They had a little small yard, so they had a tent type of thing, right? And it worked. And they shared literally one car. On my mom's side, at the time, they didn't have a car, so everybody took the subway and the bus. Everyone watched over each other. What they would do is simple. Every single last one of them, on both sides, by the way, all the adults went to work. The older children watched the younger children. As the adults went to work, they went cash your check and they brought all of their cash to the house. And the eldest, shout out to my uncle Evans, rest in peace to him on my dad's side. Shout out to my aunt Nikki on my dad's side as well. The eldest, the two eldest, most of the time, and it was always the eldest women, by the way, because our culture is matriarchal, by the way, especially when it comes to voodoo, it's matriarchal. The eldest women at now was okay. So this money goes to you. This money goes to you. We're gonna pay this bill. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna stack up, and then we're gonna link with other Haitian families in the neighborhood, and we're gonna do what Esau. So prior to them purchasing their homes, they didn't even have banks. They used their own network of banks within their own community, right there in Brooklyn, right there in Boston, and that's how they all purchased their houses. From my family, you have people like Claudine Gay, who became the first female president of Harvard University, who is black, right? She's from my family. Mikhail Jean, who also became the first black governor general of Canada. Once again, cousins of my mom, right? Every single female in her family went to school while the men worked. And then when they purchased, then they flipped, and then the men went to school and the women worked. All the brothers and sisters stuck with this. All the people that came along that were husbands and girlfriends, they had to agree to this. And that's really how everyone owns their home. Like literally. The only one who doesn't own his home right now, seriously, is me. My brother, sister, they all on all sides they own their homes. My cousins, they all own their homes. Well, I do have another cousin. She doesn't want to own. She has a condo and she travels that she rents and she travels. But point is, everyone went to school, everyone went to college, everyone got a degree, everyone purchased. And we came here, and keep in mind, they didn't speak that much English. Okay, they were not rich. They sold everything. A lot of the stuff got seized in Haiti. Further later on in life, a lot of them went back to reclaim their shit. But when they came here, remember there was no food stamps. These people were scared to get food stamps. They were scared to get deported, even though they came illegally. Plus, it was their mindset that we're gonna work for. We gotta work for. Nobody has fancy clothes. Um, Hey, what's up, Zoe? And all these people stuck together. And we had a rich Haitian community, not rich in terms of dollars, but culturally. On my dad's side, you had basically they stuck together. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't nice. I remember as a kid being in the house. It was completely different. I remember as a kid being in the house, and I remember what happened in Haiti, right? So it wasn't pretty, but there was no complaining because we were alive. Because we had some family members that died in Haiti. They didn't die of hunger or anything. They died because of politics, and they literally were murdered. Like my grandfather, they were killed. You see what I'm saying? My grandfather was poisoned on my mom's side. After his death, his body was dug up, and they chopped him up into pieces, and then reset it back to our family. So we got to see that. See, in America, people have never seen tanks rolling up into a place indiscriminately shooting. You never seen people riot, poor people riot, go up to a rich person's neighborhood and burn down a house and drag people out the streets and rape them and kill them. We saw that on a daily basis. So when you come to America, this is easy. It was easy. They all worked at a factory. My uncle drove taxi. Um, my aunts, my mom, everybody went to school, and they still had to. They went to school, but they worked part-time jobs. Um, I mean, they always tell this famous story how at one point they were so poor that they didn't even have money to buy pads. These women. I don't want to get emotional because just seeing what my family went through. But they would use rags, and this is in America in the early '80s, and they had to rewash it, hang it. And that's what they had to do. What they had to do to survive. But they kept their culture. They kept their culture. And now looking back at it, that generation sacrificed for everything that my kids are benefiting from. So we don't give a fuck about formal language. We don't care about what the politics of this country is. I will always be Hispaniola. Period. And when you factor in the religious factor and the God factor into it, there's no way you're gonna stop us. Period. Period point blank. Because we kept who we were. So yes, we migrate over here, but we never migrated our culture, our religion, our understandings ever. So Haiti is not just a place we go to. Haiti is in our heart. It's a mindset. And like my uncle Giscard would say, the mindset is 1804, literally. So, anyways, you can ask your next question. My bad. I just, I
Oh
wanted to
no,
completely
I
explain everything.
mean, I was gonna ask a couple of questions that what you just said pretty much covered. I mean, I'm gonna, tell you guys what the questions were, but it was, have you ever felt pressure to assimilate or change aspects of your identity to fit into mainstream society, and how have you navigated this? I think, you went in depth and kind of covered a
Well,
lot of
I will say
that,
this
and
though to that question, if you don't mind, and I'm also going to
yeah,
incorporate the question in the
go
comments
right
as well.
ahead.
Um, did we have? Yes, there was a time growing up in New York, it wasn't cool to be Haitian. Haitians were getting beat up. You know what I'm saying? It was not cool to
Hmm.
be Haitian. So a lot of Haitians, especially those that spoke better English, they'll be like, "I'm not Haitian." Like I'm gonna be honest with you. At times, it was easy for me to say, "Oh, I'm actually Dominican." Oh, okay, okay, okay. Because I'm telling you, it was bad. But up until 10th grade, when we started reversing that, now, and here's the truth, now we started beating up the black American kids. It got to a point where if you're a black American, you really couldn't go to Erasmus High School or Wayne Dale. I'm serious. Because that's the truth. Because it's same thing with Miami, for example. When Haitians first came to Miami, they were under attack by black American kids. But fast forward to the late 90s and early 2000s, now these younger Haitians have gangs. They got all types of stuff going on. In places like North Miami Senior High School, NMB, Coral Gables, places like Carroll City, places like Edison High School. Oh no, black Americans were getting beat up badly because it was a reversal. But you
And
see,
to some
that
extent, that's
system,
surprising to me, like,
mm-mm.
from my perspective, I'm like, wow, but I do understand, like, the
Haitians
layers
were
and the
hated. There was something.
dynamics.
Look, let me
Well,
say
of New
something. There's a thing
York
called
in general, you
both.
guys have
Oh man, it'll
so
be
many
crazy. So
different
Haiti, we had.
groups
Let
of
me tell you why that
people.
started. Really, let me tell you how that really got the apex of that, the climax of that, I should say. So in 1991, I believe, the Haitians rioted in New York. And you could look up the videos and pictures of this. They shut down all the major bridges in New York. They literally shut down the city because George Bush Sr. stated that Haitians were bringing HIV/AIDS and they were responsible for bringing AIDS to America in the 80s. So you had this thing called Haitian booty scratcher and Haitian body odor, HBO, literally. And they also had something called Haitian Fridays. On Fridays, they would announce Thursday, Wednesday, there's going to be Haitian Friday. If you were Haitian, you went to school, you got to scrap up because you're about to get beat up. you're gonna get jumped. There's gonna be a lot of fighting going on. But the reason that happened was when you have two people that look similar, and keep in mind the Haitians also fought the Jamaicans. They came to America. They fought Dominicans. There was a time if you were Haitian, you couldn't go to Washington Heights, and if you were Dominican, you could not go to Flatbush, right? And these little these little underbellies are things that people don't really see. What really changed that a lot, though, by the way, was when they had the Crown Heights riots in New York, right? Of which a Guyanese child was basically murdered by a Jewish man, Ashkenazi. I'm not sure what kind of Jewish he was, but
Oh my
Orthodox Jewish,
goodness.
right? And now you had all the Caribbeans, along with FBA Black Americans, fighting along each other, and they were fighting the Jewish people in New York. This was huge. Like, this was a huge situation to the point where they were about to bring the National Guard. This went on for 4 days. Jews got beat up, Jews got murdered, blacks got beat up, blacks got murdered. Police got beat up, and police got murdered too. They burned out a lot of buildings. I mean, the Crown Heights riots was the central focus of what now we have. Now what we have is now what we call Little Haiti in Brooklyn. But that was the epicenter of the Crown Heights riots. So now all these factions of Caribbean people and black people that used to fight each other, they now embrace the Jamaican, the Haitian culture, the Guyanese culture, you know what I mean? The African culture. And they thrived. And they realized something very simple. We might not own these units, but we're going to buy within each other. And they started kicking out the Jews from the Crown Heights. It was at that point, there was still some tension, but it was at that was a turning point in America, in Brooklyn. In Florida, the turning point was also a Haitian and Cuban riot. Well, technically, it was a Haitian and Black American riot. And then the Haitians joined in with the Black Americans. And then you also had, and Rick Ross, you have to listen to some of his music, what really got the Black Americans and the Haitians in South Florida to become one and actually start really be cool with each other to a certain extent was the Booby Boys. You had the Carol City faction, the faction from like Liberty City, Overtown, Black American, Little Haiti, Alapata, which is mostly Dominican, North Miami Beach, Aventura, Haitian. When the Zopound, right, founded Zopound, it was to protect Haitians from Black Americans and police brutality out here. They formed their own gangs to protect their neighborhood. Literally, they walk around the neighborhood with guns, right? I got you next to writer. I think when she's about to be done, I got you. So when all that happened, then you started having clash. There was literal war in the streets of Florida between the Cubans, Bahamians, Black Americans, and Haitians. It was bad. It was like bodies everywhere. But what emerged from that, the strongest group and the most ruthless group from that in South Florida was the Haitians. Because they were also willing to not only kill you, but cut your body up, but burn you. And they were also involved in a lot of drugs with the Latinos too. So that's how things kind of changed. Fast forward, now in South Florida, being Haitian, in Brooklyn, South Florida, Orlando, up until like the whole East Coast basically, being Haitian is something fucking lit. It's awesome. You got Haitians in all these rapper videos. Like being Haitian is a cool thing. But there was a time, to answer your question, that being Haitian was a dangerous thing, especially for a female. So once it because it doesn't matter to us what you think about Haiti. We don't give a fuck. It's part of my language. It's our country. We don't care what you think. In Ohio, the people that get picked the most, people that are living the best, people that are accomplishing the most are the Haitians that just got it. When you disrespect a person of Haitian descent or Dominican descent, and we have such a long, rich history that we know about, when we come to America, we don't see it as, oh my God, we're scared. No, we see it like, oh, this is a challenge. And through bloodline, literally bloodline, we believe that we're going to win. So and I'm going to diverse a little bit, but when I talk about the unity between FBA and those of the Caribbean, those of the of Africa, I've lived it as a person who's a first generation Haitian. I see it. I see the good, the bad, and I see the ugly. But overall, I see the greatness of what things could be. Because when you add all these factors together, it's literally unstoppable. You know what I mean?
I agree
Now,
wholeheartedly. I do.
there were some questions. I'm not sure if I could ask them real quick. If I can answer them
Can
real quick. I'll run
we,
through them.
if we can, real quick,
Okay, go
because
ahead.
I do have
Mhm.
an hour limit and we're already
Oh,
almost
okay, go ahead.
at like I think 32 minutes.
Oh, my bad.
So
Talk
I'm
about it.
gonna
Go ahead.
ask real quick. We'll ask a
Hmm.
couple like two light questions. What is your
Sure, sure.
highest level of education? Is
Hmm.
one question, and then what is your current job? Like what line of work are you
Okay.
doing currently?
So,
And
highest
you
level
can expand
education.
as much as you want
Hmm.
on those two things like in depth if you want.
Sure, no problem. So, I have a bachelor's, right, in business
Hmm.
administration. Took me a while to get it because by the time I was 19, I got into real estate, but family pressure, I had to go back to college. Oh my goodness. Give me a second. The train is going to be loud. What's up,
It's
Blanche? Comment
okay. It's
vas-tu?
not too bad.
Oh, it hasn't got here yet. I promise she's going to get loud. Hopefully it doesn't honk the horn. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But
Good shit.
so yes, my current job. So right now, currently, I do work at a car dealership, and I am on the process of waiting for my last certification from the state of Florida to reopen up my company. I do technically already have the company, but to reopen up for it to be a full functioning real estate company. Um,
Hmm.
my so I just had my daughter. I do enroll. What's up, Superfly? I was at DeVry University real quick, but then I was also at FIU. So I got a degree from FIU, and I got an associate's in at DeVry University. Um, I want to say this real quick about the college. My college experience was partying, having fun, and being with a lot of women, right? And experimenting. Um, I absolutely learned nothing from college because the field I went to, I didn't need college. I did it out of family pressure, um, mom and dad, and stuff like that. Oh, thank you, Superfly. But college to me didn't really matter. But I had to do it because it's a family tradition, and it just But there was absolutely nothing that I needed from college. You know what I'm saying, oh, thank you, Superfly. Now, as far as what
Yeah,
I do for a
sometimes the
living,
experience trumps,
yeah,
the need
exactly.
for,
So understand this.
yeah.
I'm 24
Popping your
years old.
cheeks open, boy.
Still,
Mm.
yeah, I'm 24 years old, still in college. Um, and I bought a Cessna 172, which is a Cessna plane 172. Um, I'm also in college. I'm driving a Porsche 911 convertible. I'm looking at my professors like, dude, I'm only here because I have to be here. Because if I didn't finish college, it was kind of like, well, you kind of like cut off type of thing. You know what I mean? So I had to do it. But at the time, I was already married. Or yeah, my kids. Well, my daughter. Um, traveling, making more money than my professors were making, and it was a legit. I was legitimate. I had my company. It was legit. I was at that time. I hadn't scammed or broken a law yet. You know what I mean?
And get it
So,
hotties.
huh? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh
So
my goodness.
no, that's the truth. Absolutely. So when I look at back at that situation, I'm never going to discourage anybody from going to college. I think it's a good thing to have a degree, but the experience trumps it. And to be honest with you, like example, so my daughter's dually enrolled right now as we speak. Um, she's going there for interior designing. Isabel has been winning awards for her art since she was 4 years old. But that degree helps her because what she wants to do, um, and also she wants to work for big corporations like Disney. But truth be told, you don't really. I mean, she. I guess she wants experience that me and her mom had. I guess. In part, and by the way, if she doesn't do it, then my mom, my dad, her parents, her grandparents on her mom's side, they'd also be upset. So it's really like a traditional type of thing, you know what I mean? But truth be told, college is something that's necessary for like certain things. Like if you're going to be a doctor, obviously, stuff like that, But my college experience was I never studied. I partied. We did a lot of ecstasy, and me and my ex-wife had a whole lot of sex and threesomes. That's what we did. And we partied. You know what I'm saying? Um, that's just what it was.
Okay,
Not condoning
so
it, not condoning it, but my college
that
was
was your
was lit.
experience. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what it is. Shit. Oh, anyway. So how do you personally define your racial and ethnic identity?
Oh, simple. I'm black. I'm African. Um, 100% unabashed African. We are Net Congo. Uh, well, as they call it, Nati Congo. Um, we're 100% African. There's no it's African first, then Haitian. You see what I'm saying? And then black or light skin or whatever people. I don't care. You know what I mean? But the bottom line is we're African. We are that of the motherland. At the very least, we're Haitian. Now, I say Haitian much more than Dominican Republic because my dad's half Dominican, half Haitian, and my dad doesn't really claim DR too much simply because of the politics. Well, Blue Evil, she's doing an interview, so the politics of DR. A lot of us Haitians we disown DR. I personally will never rock the Dominican flag, simply because Dominicans are colorist. They have sold their soul to white supremacy as a whole. Um, so truth be told, and keep in mind, I love my Dominican side, but I clearly understand the divide. One side is pro-black, pro-Afro, pro-voodoo, pro-matriarchy, and the other side is pro-European to the point where they would invite European criminals to sleep with their children to lighten their race. That's just not what we do as Haitians. We are who we are. I don't care if you call us ugly, dark, whatever. You know what I mean? Was you was you on jail again? What are you talking about, Blue?
Oh,
Anyway.
don't acknowledge that. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah, let me
let
hop
me
on that.
ask you
Let me
this.
get to this.
Let me ask
Pardon
you
my
this
language.
because I
I get
really,
that.
I really want to get this one in there. Do you have immediate family members who are doctors, lawyers, or other professionals? What types of jobs have your family members have had throughout their lives? I feel like
Oh,
this is a really, yeah, this is a really good
yeah,
question.
that well, yeah, I mean, so example, every single female on my mom's side is in the medical field. Like every one of them, not bar none. Um, they all work in the medical field, whether it be their LPNs, CNAs, RNs. What's the one female of mine who lives in Boston and she is in medical sales. They're all medical. All the men are either in engineering or doctors or law. That's what it is. And then I do have an uncle called Henry in Chicago. He has his own store and his own store. Like he has a corner store, like a bodega in Chicago. On my dad's side, all the females are either in law or business. And I mean everyone, cousins, aunts, you name it. And all the males are in either law enforcement, business, or like my dad, engineering. So that's the fields that they all migrated to. Well, I do have one uncle who's in politics in Haiti, and he's a what you call it, deputy, whatever. That would be like a a councilman or whatever. I don't know how to say it in English. Um, but my other family in France, um, all three of those cousins of mine, they're all doctors. They're my rest in peace, my uncle Evans. He was a doctor. He had a clinic in Haiti. Um, and then you got a few that go into education, I guess. Like Claudine, she went to education, obviously. And then yeah, that's about it. But that's pretty much what they do. Now, did some of them have to work two, three jobs or two jobs and go to school, or their husbands support them going to school while they went to support while they or their husbands work while they went to school? Yeah, yeah. Like I said, it was the 80s and in late 90s. The family, they what they call taille banda, meaning they tightened their waist. I don't know how to say that in English, but they stuck together. They bought used cars. They shared clothes. Um, yeah. So, but now looking at the family, and especially the generations younger than me, yeah, everyone's in college. Everyone has a job. Everyone's in business. Everyone's going for as high as they possibly can. Um, that's just what it is. So, the first generation suffered for sure, but the second generation made the first generation proud and benefited from the first generation. Now, the third generation, you couldn't even. I can't explain to my daughter and my son what I, as a in my generation, witnessed my parents and our family go through because they grew up in the Palm Bay Yacht Club. You know what I'm saying? So they wouldn't even they could hear about it, they know the stories, but they didn't experience it. So
Mm-hmm.
through the generations, the family's progressed a lot. I'm not getting to the financial part, whatever. But they're doing well. And when I lost everything and I struggled and went through what I went through, if it wasn't for my family, things would have been a lot tougher for me. See, I'm very proud to say that my family has blessed me tremendously. They rallied around me. They weren't, of course, they weren't happy about what happened, but you know, I was never in a position to be homeless, like I be hearing retards on this app say. Um, and truth be told,
Mm-hmm.
there's not one point in my life where things that went wrong, I thought of my business. I could have just gone to my dad's house or my aunt's house, or my mom. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna stay down here myself and try to build whatever. But yeah, like my aunt on Saturday sent me $1,200 because we're building towards something. So absolutely, um, my family has been instrumental in helping me, and shout out to them. And I mean every member of my family. Okay, cousin Hervé, we're all gonna put money together for him to do this. That's how I was able to pay back so much of my restitution, my family. But if that first generation did not sacrifice and stick to their culture and their plan, um, we would have been everywhere, It would have been,
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah. Okay. So let's. I want to ask you like three questions, and I just want you to pick one of them. Okay. So, have you ever experienced racial or ethnic discrimination? And if so, how did it affect you psychologically or socially? Do you have a close relationship with someone from another ethnic or cultural group? Um, did your relationship or friendship help you learn more about their culture? So, like,
Sure.
I guess
Um,
just out of those two questions, because I want to close out with this last one. Really,
sure.
I want you to be able to, yeah,
Right.
actually close that
So
rest
have
out.
I
Okay.
ever absolutely um I like I said, that first question, yeah. Growing up in New York at that oh shit. I mean, sorry. Thank you, Seal. Appreciate you. Thank you, Mama. Appreciate you. Growing up in New York, um when the wars are going on between Haitians and everyone else pretty much. Absolutely. There were times where I definitely felt sad about certain things. Um, you know, absolutely. And to be honest with you, the greatest thing that happened to me was I had friends that were Black American, Dominican. Jamaican. Um, and they were my best friends. Greetings, Flute. And it was like it kind of like isolated me from a lot of the drama that was going on. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, to be honest with you, growing up having a like example, my homeboy Greg. I have two friends, Greg and Craig. Craig, Guyanese. Greg, Jamaican. Roman, um, Dominican, right? Roman Ryan, his name, Dominican, right? And my homeboy Marshall, Black American. Actually, his family came from the South and went to New York. Um, and of course you have Airly, Puerto Rican. You know, I could just go on and on. But we were all friends, and we all um were all first generation. Matter of fact, Marshall's family had just moved to to Brooklyn from South Carolina, and Marshall was actually the leader of our group. Rest in peace to him. He died of a heart attack. Um, so and like I said, Irina, this girl named Irina, um, my first girlfriend in America, she's of Russian descent. Her father's Russian Orthodox. So all of these things put together, to answer the second part, allowed me to be able to be close with everyone. And what I realized um, growing up was we were all in the same boat, right? No pun intended. And we had different cultures, but it was the most amazing thing in the world because I didn't grow up in a predominantly Haitian neighborhood or predominantly Black American or predominantly white neighborhood. I grew up in Brooklyn, and that was the best cultural experience, more so than Haiti and DR, more so than Haiti and DR. That was the best cultural experience of my life. Whereas we saw everyone. And truth be told, everybody had beef with each other. But we all saw everyone and we all learned from each other. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's why to me, I know, I mean, I love Miami. I sure do. I love Port-au-Prince. I love Santiago. But there'll never be a Brooklyn because that atmosphere was the best thing that a kid like me who has such diverse background and, culture and religion, it was the best thing in the world. There will never be another place in my heart like Brooklyn. I like Brooklyn more than I like Haiti. And I love Haiti, but Brooklyn is my heart because that formulated who I am today and allowed me to be able to see everything, even on a way bigger scale than Haiti or the Dominican Republic. So to answer that second question, absolutely, I got friends of all types, but that is because I grew up in Brooklyn. Absolutely. Shout out to BK, man. If you've never been to Brooklyn, you're missing out on a real American experience. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so where I'm
You
gonna
know, by
ask
the
this
way, I just want
question.
to throw this in
Sure.
there. I just want to throw this in there.
What's up? What's
All the greats come from Brooklyn. I'm gonna give you an example. Michael Jordan,
up?
Biggie, Tupac, Nas, Jay-Z, Billy Cunningham. I mean, you name it. It's Brooklyn. Like either you were born or you made your bones in Brooklyn. Even Donald Trump. All the greats come from Brooklyn. Now imagine that. I'm just saying. So, you know, if you're from Brooklyn, you got a cultural background, you can't lose. I don't care if you're Jerry Seinfeld, also from Brooklyn. You name it. Barbara Streisand, Brooklyn. Oh, that's right, Superfly. Even me. Facts. I'm just kidding. But seriously, Brooklyn is
That's
where it's at, man.
beautiful.
Shout out to Brooklyn. You know what I
I
mean?
really didn't realize so many famous people were from Brooklyn. That is crazy. That's
Yeah, and I could go.
really
Listen, I could go on and on and on and
well.
on
I
for hours.
mean, it
Shit,
just
the
seems like
greatest painter in
it's
American
in
history. You know what I mean?
the
Jean-Michel
it's in
Basquiat,
everything
Brooklyn.
out
I mean,
there.
you name it. Brooklyn is the central part of this country. It is the greatest representation of what it is to be an American. Period. Um, go ahead. I think the writer wants to ask. So, writer want to ask if people are able to ask questions. Yes, I think so. Right? Okay, man.
Can I get this one question, and then we're gonna wrap up the interview recording,
Sure.
and then
Sure.
we can just like continue on with the conversation because I mean it's a great
Absolutely.
conversation. Um,
Absolutely.
so if you could give advice to someone from a different racial or ethnic background on being a better ally, what would it be?
Be yourself. and be honest and learn to
Mhm.
study the history of the people you want to be allies with. So, example, we learn all black things in Haiti, all black things in Haiti. Um, and I'm not trying to be rude here, but coming from Haiti to America and even DR, bro, I know more about the Black American experience than most Black Americans ever will know because I know about the history and the true history of it. Because we were taught by black scholars, black teachers, not French. People keep thinking it's French. No, like we were taught by black people who are pro-black from a pro-black country about what it means to be black. So we did not see Black Americans in the lenses of whites. Now, that being said, you have the propaganda that paints Black Americans as thugs, ain't shit, baby mamas, whatever. But for those of us that were educated, I don't know who you are, Jay, but I'm going to do this to you real quick. Let me just mute you. For those that are educated, my bad, brother. I'm not sure if you're ally or forward, but this is being recorded. For those of us that are educated, we understood that the lineage continues with FBA, right? Which is funny. I met Tariq Nasheed. I like Tariq. I supported Tariq.
Hey, let me
I
suck your
talked to
dick
him on my
alive.
radio
Fucking niggas in
show.
the
You know what I'm
ass.
saying?
Fucking niggas in the ass,
And
bro.
you know,
Good. You
all
know
these
what I'm
type of,
saying? Fucking niggas in the ass.
like I said, some people don't have culture, and it's a byproduct of that right there. I apologize. Um, so yeah, thank you for coming up here, Seal, please. So to be honest with you, what I would give advice to people, it will go two ways. If you are black in this country, it is your duty to understand white culture and understand that there are white allies. That's number one. Okay? If you are black in this country, it is your duty to understand all the other cultures of black people too, because you're black. But if you're white, it is your duty to understand the black culture all over the world, including natives, whatever you want to call it, in this country, Latinos, whatever, because truth be told, you would not be in the position as a white person that you're in right now if it wasn't for all these other cultures. And you, as a black person, you wouldn't be in this position either if it wasn't for certain whites in other cultures. So the Statue of Liberty is in New York for a reason, right? And I'm not going to quote all of it, but it literally tells you, give me your tired, your poor, hurdled masses. Meaning, if it could happen in New York, right? And there's been racial riots in New York, it could happen anywhere else. If the promise, right, as to who we truly were as Americans, regardless of your race and your religion, this would be indeed the greatest country to ever exist. And I still believe in the American dream. I really do. Because truth be told, our differences, it's not a problem, right? Once you set aside a difference and you realize this, oh, actually, they're not differences, they're diversity, which means, oh my God, I could learn from a white man. I could learn from a Jew. I could learn from an Arab. I could learn from a Muslim, a Christian, a Black, a Haitian, a Latino. I could learn from somebody who's mixed because we all contribute to this great country. So there's no way in hell I would ever advocate for someone to not learn about someone else's cultural experience and also have a form of empathy. I don't think that all white people are bad at all. I think there are some amazingly awesome people that just so happen to be white. There's also amazing, awesome, beautiful people that happen to be black. There's devils on all sides, bro. So be yourself, accept that you're black, accept that you're white, accept that you're Latino, Asian, Muslim, Christian. Be yourself. And if you accept yourself, then it's very simple for you to accept others. It's that simple. So that's to answer that question.
I could not
Not
have
sure if
said it better myself. Um, Thank you, Cole. I appreciate your time. This
no doubt.
concludes our interview. So
Appreciate
I'm
it.
going to turn
Quick
this
question before you
recording
go.
off
Where is it going to
and
be on? What YouTube channel is it going to be on?
hang out.